Hey everyone, welcome to MasterClass. This is the place where partner ecosystem best practices are unveiled and discussed. And it's also April 6th, which is a very special day for me, actually, because my grandma turns 92 today. So I guess the good news is I at least have some decent longevity in my genes. Anyway, she was born in Denmark and born and raised there. And post World War II, took a long boat ride to come to America. And as a teenager, didn't know hardly any English. So anytime I have travel issues, like a small delay in my flight or some inconvenience, I just have to remember how good we have it, that I can fly across the Atlantic in a couple hours while watching a movie or binging some TV shows. Anyway, the rumors are true. This is episode 5. And today I'm joined by my friends of Is Inspired, and we're going to talk about how transparency drives program success. And the alternative title was Don't Hide Behind the Curtain, Partners Are Craving Transparency. So first we have Gina Batali-Brooks, and she's been a partner and a friend of Impartner since the Treehouse Interactive days. So good to have an OG on here with us. And as a little throwback, I actually have my name tag from my Treehouse days in my background here.
Nice.
Just as a little throwback for you, Gina. So anyway, Gina, she's the founder and CEO of Is Inspired. And that's a Colorado-based channel and partner ecosystem-focused consulting company. And for over 20 years, she's had the combined experience of, she combines experience and curiosity. I love how you say that. For the channel and the partner ecosystem and measured experimentation to help companies improve business results through innovative channel infrastructure. And on a personal side, she enjoys great food, movies, skiing, and above all else, laughing. So we got that in common. So I love that.
Yeah. I love the story about your grandma. That was awesome.
Thanks. I like to throw in a little personal stuff in there. But
yeah.
So we're also joined today by Gina's cohort, the SME of today's topic, Ines Roesler, and she is a channel engagement manager at Is Inspired, and she brings 15 years of experience in channel marketing, project management, and marketing operations to the table. And Ines has a passion for implementing systems and projects and is dedicated to ensuring that technical implementations not only work, but also achieve business goals and meet user requirements. That's good. And on a personal note, she loves to dance, travel, and read books ranging from sci-fi or fantasy to detective stories. That I don't share in common. I hate to read. I'm sorry. I'll watch the movie, though, of those.
Well, we can always watch movies together. That's always good.
They always say the book is better, but the movie's fine. I'll stick with the movie. Anyway, so for a little background on today's topic, before I turn it over to you, Gina, I was just thinking back to when we did a lot of market research a couple of years ago, and we surveyed a whole bunch of customers worldwide and really anyone who works with partners with the purpose of deciding, or asking how they tier or classify their partners for the purpose of deciding their level of rewards or benefits, and to which the partner should have access. And the results were a bit ugly, actually. It painted a picture of an overly complex world where vendors spent a lot of manual hours at the end of each quarter or year, whichever they measured based off of. And they were trying to figure out, with all these manual calculations that took a lot of man hours, whether each partner belonged as a silver or a gold level of benefits. And in the end, they felt like they were overpaying their partners to a significant amount. And from the partner's perspective, there was a complete lack of visibility into this whole process commonly. So they didn't know whether they fit into a silver or gold, or it was kind of a big surprise at the end of the quarter of the year. And they usually expected, if they were gold previously, they would remain gold, even if they were only achieving or performing the silver level, for example. And in fact, the actual stats from that global survey said that 60% of the channel pros who responded to that survey said they lacked confidence that their partners were tiered correctly. 60%, that's a lot. And 78% of those that lack confidence in tier accuracy said they may be mistakenly overpaying their partners by up to 20%. So big problem that was uncovered there. I mean, I'm sure the partners didn't mind that they got that old monopoly bank error in their favor, but yeah, that's a pretty hefty margin of error. So as a result, the Impartner team here got the idea that program status should be more like a frequent flyer program, have that level of visibility like us here in Salt Lake City, where our Impartner headquarters are. A lot of us enjoy the Delta Fly Miles program, right? I can log in anytime to the Delta website, see exactly where I stand and how much farther I need to do to take the steps I need to take to get to the next level. In fact, people are so motivated by this status that I have a coworker that I travel around with to visit customers sometimes, and he's proudly told this story a couple of times. So Kirby, I'm kind of throwing you under the bus a little bit here. But he said that once at the end of the year, he noticed that he was just short of reaching diamond or platinum status. I can't remember which. So he actually booked and jumped on a flight to LAX, got on the return flight 20 minutes later and came back home just so he could reach that status. Kind of an extreme example maybe, but it's amazing how motivating it can be if you just expose what it is that's required and how close people are. So with that goal of simplicity, openness, partner and motivation, the Impartner Program Compliance Manager tool was born a couple of years ago. However, even with such a tool that helps you automate the categorization of partners based on performance criteria, there's a lot of strategy, design, planning, thought that has to be put into creating that gold or silver, platinum, classic program, or even a point-based program, which is becoming popular these days. And so for all that strategy, planning, execution phase, the Is Inspired team really brings the knowledge here. So I'm excited to have them share a part of their brains with us today. So I'll shut up for a minute and get it over to you, Gina, and have you go through a lot of this great content that you put together for us today.
Thanks, Trevor, and thanks for the great setup, because I think that is exactly what we're here to talk about, is the idea, and I just loved this cartoon, because I think what you described there about the benefits of the transparency and making sure that your partners are understanding where they're at, so that it really is the carrot that you're keeping front and center, and the stick is kind of the secondary component to what you're doing. And I think this is really important, because a lot of the customers, when we work with them, they spend a lot of time on the compliance component, like making sure they're meeting the requirements. But I think the benefit of the tools and the automation and the being able to display this to your partners is just what you talked about, of the motivation for something like Delta Airlines, right? We've all had those cases of we're just a few things short. I'll even call in and buy the miles, right, that I need to have to get to that level so that I can achieve that goal. And that's really the same concept you have with any program. And so you've built all this effort, or you put all this effort into your program and creating a great program with the point of driving behavior. And this enables that ability to show the partners so that it can drive the behavior. So if you go to the next slide, really wanted to talk about what that means, right? So really, when you're talking about transparency, you're working to empower your partners so that they can be self-sufficient and see where they're at. Driving accountability, and we talk a lot in terms of partnering, and partnering is the partner side and the internal partnering teams, and making sure they're kind of seeing the same data and they're driving the accountability through that same data. And it makes that relationship and those discussions so much easier. It allows you to make data-driven decisions, realizing efficiencies. So, one of the things that you had said, Trevor, about the hours that people spend on, trying to figure out where people are, and then the trust and the backlash that you can have if it's not right, and the partners go, wait, that's not what I have, and now you've got goodwill and additional work you have to do. And then the final thing, and this is by design to me, the final thing is enforcing the program requirements. It's all about enforcing them with the ability to provide the benefits you want to provide. So when we talk about, Trevor had mentioned that one of the things that we at Is Inspired we'd love to do is to bring things from the design phase through to the automation. And we don't like to jump just to automation because you can miss so much of your what you need to have happen. And again, you've put the effort into a great strategic program, understanding in the design phase how the automation and what you want to show and why you want to show it for the long term, and also how you're going to get benefit along the way, even if you can't implement everything all at the same time. Then you want to spend some time validating, and that's validating externally and internally and putting some tools and stuff in place to validate. And then finally, you're moving into the automation phase. So with that, I'm actually going to bring in Ines because she is our expert in this space, and she's going to give you some more details on each one of these phases.
Thank you, Gina. So when you start this process, when we look at designing an implementation like this, we want to start with falling in love with the problem and not the solution, so that you really think about, what am I trying to solve? We know why we're doing it, but what is it that I actually want to do? And then get to how I'm going to solve my problems, but not skipping things along the way. As Gina has said, you want to make sure you don't skip anything, and you've thought about all of the sides of the problems as much as you can. So let's have a look at what designing can look like. So when we say start with the problem, but then also think about how you get from your problem to the solution, what we say is start with the end in mind, but think about how you're going to get there. So being realistic about what you can implement and when. And very often that means thinking about whether it makes sense to implement in phases with milestones, depending on where you are with your partner program, where your partners are. Do they have visibility today? So for example, we had a customer where partners had no visibility into where they were against partner program criteria. And so it was really hard for them to know, how do I get to achieving that silver, gold, platinum, or authorized level, whatever that is, if I don't know where I am. So where we started there is with showing partners where they are today, to then do additional steps down the line, because that was an important first milestone, and not wanting to automate everything right away. So you want to think about, how do I get from A to Z with milestones in between, and think about where you are. The next thing you want to do is understand where you have your data. What do you want to track? And you have your partner program criteria. So think about, where is that data? But also think about, how do you segment your partners within your partner program? So do you need segmentation for partners in terms of different partner types or different capabilities? Or do you, for example, have a revenue criteria where the thresholds depend on the country or market that the partner is in? So think about how that plays into your design of your tool. And then you also may have additional indicators of success. that you want to show to your partners, even if that's not part of the partner program. And sometimes it can be really useful to just show your partners additional information. So that's also something to think about. Then we have exceptions. Sorry, yes.
Sorry, I thought you were done with your point. I'll let you finish, and then I just wanted to jump in right at the end of that.
All right. And then, of course, with a partner program, we also always have exceptions. We want to manage 80% of our partners using the rules and criteria of the partner program. But of course, there will be exceptions. So it's always useful to think about, how do I want to manage those exceptions? And then as a next step, what do I want to automate? Is it just data flow? Is it just the assessment? What else can I automate? Things like communication, for example. So the tip is design for what's beneficial for both your internal and partner audience. So for your CAMs, for example, who then can have a much better conversation with their partners when they can both look at the same information and it's transparent of where partners are in their journey.
Okay, now I'll interrupt you. Yeah, I just want to say this is such an important step that many companies I've worked with haven't considered, right? So I've just run into so many that are trying to build the plane while it's flying, which isn't going to give you the best results. But just taking that step back and considering the problem and what you're trying to solve, and doing this design phase is so critical to having a much more successful program.
Yeah, and I was going to also say, even if you're not ready, you don't think you're ready to implement program the visibility component. Like say you're implementing a PRM solution for the first time, you still want to actually spend time on how you're going to handle this aspect of it at the very beginning, because it actually can feed into your data design. And I think that's a really important piece as well. So even though you might be tempted to say, well, we're not going to get to this step for 3 months because, or year or whatever, making sure that you're thinking about it from the very beginning is important. So that would be another tip there.
Yes, definitely. So once you're through your design phase, the next thing you want to do is validate. And what we tend to do is building a prototype. So what we mean by that is you can use a spreadsheet or a test environment, but the recommendation is use real data if you have data already, maybe even with results from a previous assessment, but use real partner data and put that through your prototype and test how that performs. Also test how data coming from different sources, maybe you have data from your learning management system, but also from your CRM going into your PRM platform. Make sure you know where the data is coming from and that it can be used by your prototype. And of course, if you're using a spreadsheet, then you put all of your data into your spreadsheet from those different sources. The key then is to review your prototype with your partnering team, so your partners, as well as, of course, internally with your CAMs and everybody else who is a great first indicator of how is this going to work. So see what people think. Prototypes don't have to be perfect. So build a first instance, see if that works, amend, do a bit of tweaking here and there, and then see if you get the expected results. So one client we had that we did an implementation with, we did a prototype and ran the last assessment data through that prototype, and then actually found some discrepancies. And it was a really good exercise to work through those discrepancies to see, okay, some of them were data issues. So we knew we had a bit more data that needed to be cleaned. but other things were also inconsistencies where the last assessment had overrides that we weren't aware of. So just using a prototype really means you can see what your design is going to do with your data. And that's a really useful exercise. So once you've tested your design, you then want to apply that design to the platform of your choice and basically automate your design. As I just mentioned, one of the things that we come across is data cleanup. That is something very often you need to do before you can start, at least with some of the data. And one of the things we recommend is leveraging that opportunity to clean up data. So you may have some data that you can live with as is, even though it's not really that clean. But if you're already doing data cleanup, it's a great opportunity when you're implementing something new or changing something to use that opportunity to do additional cleanup. And then we want to think about the implementation roadmap. So thinking back to those milestones that I mentioned earlier, it may be that showing partners their current status against criteria is a great first step. And then a while later, you start doing automated assessments and then do further automation. Or maybe you go right ahead and you can do automated assessments and automated data updates right away. So this is thinking through, how do I start and where do I go from there? And then you want to, of course, leverage workflows and integration to automate your data updates and communication with the partner. So one implementation we've done was with a mature program. They were doing manual assessments, so that was quite time consuming. So we started with showing partners their achievement against criteria for the last assessment. And then as a next step, we use the tool to do automated assessments. And we also automated some of the communication with partners. And there the tip is, when you think about automation, it's great to automate good news. So sending partners an email right away when you've done your assessment automatically to say, congratulations, you've just been promoted to silver or gold, so that they right away know that, and they also know where to check how they did against the criteria, is a great use of automation. We would recommend using humans for challenging news. So for this customer as well, automated the good news, but when it came to partners that were demoted, that's a conversation for the CAM to have with the partner one-to-one, and not using an email for that.
Yeah, automation just doesn't quite have the tact of, hey, you didn't quite perform well enough.
Not quite.
Yeah, that's good advice for sure. All right, I think this is the last of it. Yeah. That's the slide that we started with, right? And did you have any?
Basically, to recap, on your journey, you go through designing what you want to implement, looking at everything from your data, falling in love with your problem and getting to that solution. Then you validate your design using a prototype, and then you automate and think about milestones. So don't think that you have to put everything in at the beginning when you go live. Very often it makes sense to go out in phases.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, and then this is just to say, hey, if you're interested in talking more about this, reach out to us. You can reach out to us via LinkedIn and talk to it. We're more than happy. We love to get on the call. We call them our channel therapy times of getting on a call and really walking through what you're facing and how you might want to put some of this into action.
Love it. Channel therapy sessions. Do I get a virtual couch to lay on and tell you all?
Exactly. Absolutely.
Good. All right, so we are up on our time just about here, but wanted to give an opportunity for anybody streaming this live to go ahead and put in the comments any questions you may have for the team, or of course you can go for the full therapy session if you want a nice private session to ask all your deep dark questions. Let me just look at a few comments. Oh yeah, happy birthday, Grammy. Thanks. Oh, Chelsea. That's nice. Oh, Kirby, yep, he mentioned that, yes, he's the one that did the mileage thing. And apparently Starbucks also has him under their spell with their frequent diner program. Very good. So Jane says, you talk a lot about automation. What are some of the challenges you face with automation of program status and visibility? Gina or Ines, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're seeing, especially, and you kind of alluded to it at the beginning, Trevor, of some of the things around point-based system or moving to more capabilities, and the fact that we have partners that are playing different roles in different ways. So the same partner playing different roles, and working through some of those challenges in the automation, I think, is our newest challenge as the ecosystem really kind of builds itself out. And so they have been super fun. We love challenging problems, and they've been super challenging to kind of work through.
Very good. Looks like Jeff is in for the free 30-minute consultation. So one person ready to go.
Yeah, Jeff, that's pretty funny.
All right. Well, it doesn't look like any other live questions for now. That's perfect. Oh, hang on. We got one more here. Let me see. Oh, there it is. Is that showing? There we go. During which stage of the program compliance continuum, that's a fancy word, did you start working with people?
So I think this is really from a standpoint of when we had talked about every aspect, we work with people at every point. And so sometimes it's right at the implementation standpoint. And again, what I had said is you want to build this all in from the very beginning, so you make sure you don't get into data silos. To Ines referring to the fact that, we'd worked with somebody that had a very mature program, had already been doing some measurements and stuff, but when we went through the automation process, we were able to fine tune those and then automate everything to provide more visibility. To ones that had already implemented a tool, but had implemented a automation but hadn't yet implemented the program visibility aspects, and so worked with them on designing it from the beginning. So kind of all aspects of the continuum, I guess I would say, and it's fun to do all aspects.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, I appreciate you two joining us. I'll go ahead and wrap here as we are up on our time, but this has been very informative and always good to hang out with you, Gina and Ines. So I appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, Trevor. It's been fun.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye.
Okay. Until next time, guys. We'll see you.